Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, we're going to be talking about picking the right project scope. Alright, welcome back to this video. Before we start this video, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe. The more likes and subscribers we get, the more content we can make. It really helps us out when you smash that like button. Also, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe to this channel and please share it because we're almost at 1,000 subscribers and it would make my day if we got there very soon. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about project scope. I'm going to start off this video with a story from my development past. So one of my favorite projects that I completed in my early 20s was making an Xbox 360 game. I released it and my career skyrocketed as a result. But I actually tried to release many more. So what I did is I tried a sequel to the original game, but I didn't think it was different enough, or I didn't think the concept was good enough to warrant a sequel. So I spent maybe another couple months on this project and then I abandoned it. Now this was a really good idea to make a project that was similar to the last project, but a little bit different. This is one way that you can actually get really good at coding. If you make 3 projects that are about 90% the same, that is maybe 10% different, you actually get in the habit of making that kind of project. And that 10% difference can actually mean a lot of personal growth, and you get to release more projects to your portfolio. So I abandoned that because I didn't think it was different enough. So I looked at the Xbox 360 marketplace and to figure out what was selling, and I found out that maybe a top-down shooter would be the best. And the game that I released was a top-down shooter anyway, but this one's gonna be more, and it's gonna be bigger, and it's gonna have so many things that the other one didn't have. So what I did is for the next 6 months, I completely added in new feature after new feature after new feature. I said, you know what, let's go ahead and let's make it bigger. Okay, we want to add this feature. So I would get up in the morning, I would code it, and then around 3 o'clock I would go to my night job, and that was basically my day for 6 months. So the project kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and one day I opened up my IDE and I said, this is too big to release. So because it was too big to release, and I don't think I would ever release it, that it would maybe take another year, and I made so many development mistakes, I completely abandoned the project. Now this is all too familiar for anyone who's ever tried to make a game or an indie project or whatever. And one of the big things I learned about that particular scenario is that you need to really have project scope in at the beginning of the project. And what is project scope? Well, project scope is how big and how many features there are within the actual project. So in that particular project, I had the idea to make a game like this, and I knew that my ability level was about this big, but it kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually the project collapsed in on itself because it would never have been released. Now, I think this project was a complete success. In fact, I learned from how big of a failure it is. And I think that when you have a big failure like this in your life, if you can learn from it, it's the best thing that you can do. And from that point forward, I don't think I could have built $1 million business without that project failing. And today, even at Mammoth Interactive, we pick projects that we can complete. And that may sound so incredibly basic, but you have to build a project that fails in this way. Now that may sound incredibly basic, but once you go through a big project and have it fail and realize you waste maybe 6 months of your life, then this is something that you can learn from and you'll probably grow as a person. So what can you do? Now, one of my big problems is that I like really big scope projects. I like big epic projects, and I like, again, well, big projects. But the thing is that if you want to get good at coding or game development or basically building software, you want to build a lot of really small projects. So what I would recommend that you do is, if you're just starting to learn to code, is build just a lot of small projects that are maybe 80% the same. And if you do this over a 6-month period, I think you'll be successful. And I always mention that if you had a person that would make small little projects, and I mean really small projects, over 6 months of time, and if you had another person that just built one big project, the person making the small projects would be way farther ahead in their development than the person making the big projects. So this is something that I highly recommend. Also, from a business point of view, you always want to release the minimum viable product. So making a small project, getting it out there, getting customers' reaction to it is a lot better than making a big project. You know, when I go to game conferences and development conferences, sometimes I sit next to people that have been working on a game for 5 years. Well, you don't even know if people like your game, so why would you want to spend 5 years of your life on it? Make a small game first and go from there. Now, if you don't want to attach your name to it, you can always start up a studio. You can basically put something up on itch.io. You can test your games space out that way. So if you're like me and you really like having big projects, then I recommend making some different studio, making the small projects first. You don't have to attach your name to your GitHub or anything like that. In fact, it's probably best if you're in your early 20s to use a pseudonym anyway, something that's completely different from your name. And this is something that I wish someone told me. So what can you do to maximize your progress? Well, here's the thing that I think is really, really awesome. So you can actually build small project, medium projects, and large projects all at the same time. Let me explain. So what I would recommend that you do is on your own, you build really small projects, because let's face it, if you're working in your spare time or on weekends, you don't have all the time in the world to actually make this work. And even if you have a freelancing job or you have a bunch of extra time, I would recommend doing a bunch of solo projects that you can get done all by yourself. You can always release the game or app or whatever it is you're trying to do on your GitHub or on the App Store or wherever under a different company name. Now, what I also recommend that you do is you also work with people, small groups, maybe 2 to 5 people. So not only are you making small projects, but you're making a slightly bigger scope project with more people. One of the things about development is that it can be very lonely. And if you find 1 or 2 other like-minded people who really like to get things done and can get things done, that's a big thing. So one of the things about development is that you eventually have to work with people and you have to practice at that. If you're just working by yourself, which most developers do, you're used to doing things your way. Well, your way might not be the best way, and there might be someone more experienced than you that might give you some advice. Now, you need to find maybe 2 to 3 like-minded people to release some other projects. And if you do this, not only will you be able to get bigger scope projects on your resume and portfolio, but you'll be able to possibly make more money, and you might have some good time as well. Some of the best times in my life have been working with small teams and sharing jokes and eating pizza after development and going to the movies together. It's been a really good time. So I highly recommend not only just making small projects, but medium projects. And if you really want to do this, you can make bigger projects with a bigger team. So this is completely possible today because a lot of people are working from home and you can do multiple simultaneous projects. The best situation for you as a developer is to have all these things pay for itself, and then you can just develop all day. And this is arguably the dream. It has been the dream for many developers, specifically game developers, for many years. So this method of working by yourself, working with a small team, and then maybe working with a bigger team to get a bigger scope project out the door is a very good idea. But I wish I could take all of the credit for this. I am actually adapting this from a very influential blog article that I read in the past. This blog article has nothing to do with programming, but this person who wrote it is a multi-talented person and is a programmer as well. So you can see the article right here. It's from a guy named Derek Sivers. If you don't know who he is, I highly recommend that you follow him and read his blog articles. His blog articles are essential to becoming a small business success. And if you do read his articles, they will give you a lot of insight on how to build a practical business for customers. So in this article, Derek Sivers used to be a musician and he used to sell his band services to colleges. And the way he would do this is he would have a solo act, he would also have a 2-piece band and a 5-piece funk band. And the price structure for each was a little bit higher, but he made most of the money as his solo gig. And I thought this was really awesome because you can apply this absolutely to programming. You can have your solo project, you can have your minimal 2-man project, and you can have a much bigger project. So this is one thing I absolutely love to do. I absolutely love to take bits of information and ideas from other areas of the world and apply them to programming. And this is something that's really good. And I had known about this article for a long time. And after my big failed projects, I realized that this is a great way to do things. And after that, I started to build many iOS games, small iOS games, and my career absolutely skyrocketed after that. So after I started building iOS games, my e-learning career took off, and I was building small to medium and big size courses, and I was working with a bunch of people as well. I absolutely took the advice from a former musician and turned it into the programming world for profit. So do you like working on small projects or big projects? Do you like this idea of working on multiple projects at the same time? I want to know your comments. Please write them down below. Remember that this channel doesn't do a Patreon. Instead, we sell our digital products down below. The more money we get from the content that you buy below, the more content we can make. Our goal is to get to 10,000 monthly subscribers. We have monthly and yearly options, and we release 20 to 60 hours of fresh new content per month. We release everything from game development tutorials to 3D modeling tutorials to web development tutorials to cybersecurity tutorials to machine learning tutorials and much, much more. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. It really does help us out. Also, please be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for listening, and I'll see you in another video.